The first three IndianaJones movies are without a doubt the most popular action films of the 1980s. While they certainly have their ups and downs like all franchises do, it's important to point out exactly why they stand out in the entertainment landscape. Harrison Ford's charm, memorable set pieces, and line after line of quotable dialogue give them an unforgettable edge. But that's not enough for a video, dear viewer. We need to dig in and see what makes these movies tick. As with a lot of franchises, many people think that the first Indy movie is the best, and it's very easy to see why right from the start. As the credits roll on by, we're treated to two guides leading an unknown man into the jungle, which builds up a sense of intrigue. Who is he? What are they doing out there? Why are the local tribes after them? All of that builds up to one hell of an entrance. Isn't that cool? It's so cool. But we can't just settle with that. No. We're treated to weird traps, one of the most iconic idols in cinema history, a giant boulder, and the fact that Indy has a rival. I will say this too, Belloc is one of the reasons why this movie is so good. In many ways, the movie mixes the adventure serials of the 30s and 40s with James Bond, which works in its favor. We just kinda have to dodge the fact that Indy's female students seem to want him on the office desk. On the plus side, though, the meeting with Army intelligence tells us pretty much everything that we need to know. We learn about Tanis, the staff of Ra, and the danger posed by the Ark. However, the suspension of disbelief has to come into play here, so let's talk about that for a bit. All stories have some contrivances to move the plot along, but it's important to point out that these movies do not slot into history like some people claim. For instance, how would the Germans get away with looking for the Ark in British Egypt? Also, why would the movie say that Tanis was lost when it has been studied since Napoleon's time? This is a character-driven mythology. You either accept these points or you don't watch the movie. With that said, the globetrotting that follows delivers a seesaw of nearly non-stop action, with some decent and weird plot points to boot. For instance, Marion's initial hatred of Indy is really awkward because it shows us that the hero had an affair with a teenager. It wouldn't have been seen as gross in its time, as in when the movie takes place, but it certainly explains a lot. However, that's about all we get until the action scene. The movie kind of repeats this pattern throughout. Sala is Indy's friend and has an inroad into the German dig. Oh, Marion and Indy are bonding too. It's time for a fight, and a fascist monkey? That is pretty funny, but it also gives the Germans a chance to haul Marion away in a basket.
You can't do this to me, I'm an American!
Of course, whiplash ensues when Marion dies. Or does she? Well, Indy certainly thought so, and he's angry. This leads to another meeting with Belloc, which is arguably the most awesome scene in the movie. It turns out that Belloc knows that he's a shadowy reflection of Indy, and he thinks he can get away with radioing the God of the Old Testament. This leads to one of the saddest and most badass lines in movie history.
You want to talk to God? Let's go see him together. I've got nothing better to do.
On the other hand, the mood whiplashes again when Sala's kids save Indy, only to whiplash again when an assassin poisons some dates. Yep, it's like a roller coaster. A good one at that. A little bit later, Indy learns that the Germans have an alternate headpiece to the staff of Ra, and takes a date. This is a masterful bit of tension as we learn that the Nazis are digging in the wrong place, but then Indy tries to eat the poisoned food. Luckily, Sala saves him.
Bad dates.
Nice. We head over to the map room and hey, wait a minute, that staff is supposed to be 5 feet long because of the previous scene.
This means 6 kadam high.
About 72 inches.
Wait. And and take back one kadam to honor the Hebrew god whose ark this is.
Does that mean that Indy is a dwarf? Indy gets out of there and runs into Marion, but leaves her in place to avoid the alarms. Okay, that kinda makes sense. After some digging, Indy and Sala discover the Well of Souls, and it's filled with snakes. Great. As Marion distracts the Frenchie, Indy drops down and recovers the Ark. The design is pretty awesome, but wait, it's daylight again? The Germans are gonna get him. Hey, there has to be a seesaw or the movie won't be exciting, but at least this one makes some sense.
Who knows? In 1,000 years, even you may be worth something. Son of a bitch.
When Marion is thrown into the well, we get a lot more jealous bickering that just makes the movie pop.
Where'd you get this? From him?
I was trying to escape. No thanks to you.
How hard were you trying?
What a classic. Of course, the only way out is through a wall, some corpses that are just there, and a brick made out of paper mache. Still, that gives Indy the chance to do what he does best. Punch Nazis. Marion actually helps with a machine gun too, which I love. That allows them to get away before the plane blows up. We can't rest though, the Ark is being trucked to Cairo. This leads to another badass action scene. Indy actually gets shot too, which is a good reminder that he isn't invincible. Luckily, he makes it to Cairo. Indy and Marion say goodbye to Sala as they board a ship for England. And then we get another awesome scene full of chemistry and implied nookie. The seesaw has to swing back again though. The Nazis board the ship, capture Marion, and take the Ark. Luckily, Indy is able to hang on to the U-boat somehow and we head for a secret base in the Aegean. Even though it's unlikely, it's a decent setup for the finale. Belloc plans to open the Ark. Indy initially has other ideas, yet relents. This is unexplained, but our hero is probably betting on the idea that the Ark has real power. And sure enough, it does. The Deus Ex Machina is the main reason why this movie isn't my favorite of the series. It certainly fits the Bible stories that Indy knows, but it's a little too convenient for the ending of a movie. But hey, Indy still has Marion and the Ark is safely tucked away. That has to count for something, right? Let's get it out of the way. The Temple of Doom is the worst of the original three. It has its moments, but there are also significant problems that start with the opening. For one, I'm speaking of the fact that it takes place in 1935. Okay, so we already know that Indy survives this with no damage. For two, Indy makes an incredibly stupid decision. He already knows that Lao Che is trying to kill him, so he just takes a drink from the guy? Yeah, of course it's going to be poisoned. We have to do an action scene. For three, Willie, why in the world would she drop Indy's gun out of the window of the car? For four, why didn't anyone notice that they were taking Lao Che's own air carrier? Short Round is awesome, but there are simply too many cartoony occurrences that happen in rapid time. That makes it harder and harder to go along with the whole thing. The other major downside of this movie is that it takes 40 minutes to get to Pankot Palace, so we're left with little time to build the villains. Along the way, we also have to deal with even more screaming from Willie. Please stop. When our trio gets to the palace, we're treated to a gross dinner scene that a lot of people interpret as racist, and I can kinda sorta see what they mean. The movie sets up a contrast with the villagers who gave our heroes rice and beans, but the idea that something is wrong doesn't come across properly. It just seems like it's gross for the sake of it. And then Indy and Willie start flirting.
Nocturnal activities.
You mean like what sort of cream I put on my face at night? What position I like to sleep in?
Mating customs.
Why are you doing this movie? We have to get back to the action though. A thuggy assassin tries to strangle Indy, but gets his neck broken in turn. Indy finds his way into a secret passage. Short Round accidentally springs a trap, but Willie saves them after screaming even more. Ugh, is she going to trigger the trap again? You bet. The trio gets out of the room only to encounter even more trouble because there's a hellish temple down there. I can definitely see the problem here. For those who don't know, Kali is often associated with violent imagery, but that's because she has a reputation as a demon slayer, and the source of Shiva's feet pics collection. Oh, step on me harder. The thugs of history use that mythology to justify a bunch of murders in a cult-like way. This sequence basically states that Kali is a demon. There's no real indication that it's some kind of heresy, especially since there actually is a portal down there. With that said, the imagery is very disturbing. I probably can't show you any of it though, we have to move on. Apparently, the thuggies have 3 Shankara stones. There are diamonds inside that glow, but something else is going on. Willie and Short Round have been captured. Indy found the child slaves too. However, he has to make another stupid decision of just throwing a rock. That doesn't work out too well. There's even more torture to the point where Indy is forced to drink the blood of Kali. It's here where we actually get a thrown-in justification for what is going on.
The British in India will be slaughtered. Then we will overrun the Muslims. Then the Hebrew God will fall. And then the Christian God will be cast down and forgotten. Soon, Kali Ma will rule the world.
Wait, those stones can kill gods? I think we're missing something here. Indy is turned to the dark side and Short Round is shoved into the mines. Thankfully, Short Round breaks free, but Indy is sacrificing Willie. Okay, scream your head off, Willie. I'll give you this one. Short Round grabs a torch and burns Indy, which brings him back. Cue the punching and fighting over Willie's fate. Indy saves Willie and we're treated to some catharsis for whatever this is. The children are freed, Indy kills an overseer in brownface, and Short Round stops the Maharaja from hurting Indy. There's a minecart chase too, that might keep happening. The most awesome part of the movie has to be the bridge fight, and that's largely because it starts with this.
Molaram, prepare to meet Kali in hell.
And hey, the fight with Molaram is pretty good. After an attempted heart pull, they fight over the stones. 2 of them are lost and Molaram falls to his death. Not bad. Not bad at all. And then the Maharaja leads Captain Blumbert and the British Indian Army in and they waste the Thuggee. Good. Indy winds up giving the last stone back to the village, which is nice. He also whips Willie and kisses her. Why? Oh. I believe that we're forgetting something though. Oh, right.
I don't believe in magic, a lot of superstitious hocus pocus.
Did you completely forget about this adventure, Indy? And last, but certainly not least, we come to my favorite of the original trilogy. The Last Crusade is a much more refined adventure than its 2 predecessors, but it still retains all of the things that set Indy apart. Among other things, it's also the only one that could kinda sorta maybe be a secret history. The opening in Utah is a prime example of this. We see that Indy already has a sense for preserving history. However, it backfires when he steals the Cross of Coronado, gets into a wacky train fight, and develops his fear of snakes. While he's able to dodge the gravediggers and go home, the sheriff catches up with him. He has to wait 26 years to get a shot at recovering it for good. Luckily, Indy is able to recover the cross and escape, with a spectacular explosion of course. When we get back to the college, Marcus takes the cross into the collection and we actually get to see a different side of Indy's life. His students are crowded into his office, there's a package from Venice, and the grading isn't done. That's a clear side effect of all of his adventures, which is nice to see. It seems only natural that Indy would duck out for a stroll, but he's suddenly whisked away to the house of a guy named Walter Donovan. He's an antiquities guy who's interested in the Holy Grail. However, something is wrong. Indy's father went missing while looking for a tomb in Venice. When Indy heads over to his dad's house, we discover that it has been ransacked. He figures that whoever did it was looking for the package that he got, which is his dad's Grail diary. And then we hear something odd.
I believe the Grail actually exists.
You'd think that Indy would be completely jaded by now, but I guess not. He and Marcus head off to Venice. Once they get there, they anticipate that their contact, Dr. Schneider, is a man, but she's a woman. Naturally, Indy turns on the charm, but they ultimately walk to the city library. Inside, they find a stained glass window with Roman numerals on it. There's no obvious location for the 10 until Indy finds it on the floor.
10. X marks the spot.
There's a goofy little scene here where the librarian's stamps coincide with the bashing of the tiles. After 3, Indy and Elsa make their way into the catacombs. Wait a minute, isn't Venice built on top of water? Huh. Anyway, Indy bashes through another 10 and finds a crypt full of petroleum. The fumes are a problem, so he uses a flashlight and Oh, he actually uses a lighter and a bone torch? Something tells me that this wouldn't work. There's a rat problem down there too, but they ultimately find the tomb that they're looking for. Indy makes a rubbing of the shield inscription, only to be interrupted by another faction in play. Somehow, they manage to survive the raging inferno and get back out on the streets of Venice. That means that it's time for a boat chase.
Are you crazy? Don't go between them!
Yeah, there's a miscommunication here. The chase is quite thrilling, and it leads to the capture of one of the people after Indy. Cosm leads the Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword, which upholds the safety of the Grail. Oh, there's something else, too.
Your father is being held in the castle of Grunwald on the Austrian-German border.
So the Nazis are involved? I'm pretty sure that the Nazis are involved. Indy and Marcus learn that the start of the quest is in Alexandretta, which is now known as Iskenderun. Indy feels like he has to go after his dad, but he quickly discovers that the apartment was ransacked. And just who would know where the apartment and Indy's dad's house are? Indy thinks that Elsa isn't taking this seriously enough, so he takes charge like a boss.
Until I'm sure, I'm gonna continue to do things the way I think they should be done.
How dare you kiss me?
This is awesome. However, we have to get to the castle.
Not before time. Do you intend to leave us standing on the doorstep all day with drenched?
Unfortunately, the butler sees right through Indy, and there are Nazis in the building. Indy figures that his dad is in a wired-up room, so he waltzes next door, whips his way across, and smashes through the window. He doesn't quite get out of it unscathed.
Junior? Yes, sir.
As an aside, I think that this is Sean Connery's best movie. He and Harrison Ford work so wonderfully together on screen. After Henry throws a fake vase away, we get a brief recap of what happened in Venice, which makes sense. However, the Nazis want the diary.
I will take the book now. What book?
The Joneses start fighting over this, but Indy is having none of it.
I told you! Don't call me Junior.
Unfortunately, a senior Nazi has taken Elsa hostage, or has he?
She's one of them.
Indy, please.
What? Trust me.
Yeah, we probably should have seen this coming. We have to learn more.
How did you know she was a Nazi? She talks in her sleep.
Wait, how do you know that she talks in her sleep? Oh, by the way, Donovan is a Nazi too. With that said, Indy is already one step ahead of them. He tore the map out of the diary and gave it to Marcus. Of course, he has to bluff his way out of the situation. Over in Iskenderun, Marcus doesn't really know what he's doing, but Sala finds him in the crowd. Some obvious Germans are already on them. Sala and Marcus get away for a second. However, Marcus accidentally hides in a Nazi truck. Back at the castle, Elsa keeps the Joneses alive for the moment, and that leads to one of my favorite bits in movie history.
I can't forget how wonderful it was.
Thank you. It was rather wonderful.
Wait, what? Okay, focus.
That's how Austrians say goodbye.
is how we say goodbye in Germany, Dr. Jones.
Indy gets the bright idea to burn the ropes off, so he asks his dad to get the lighter in his pocket. It doesn't work out all that well. Meanwhile, the bad guys are ordered to eliminate the Joneses. They might not even get the chance.
Dad! Oh, Dad! Oh, Dad! Ah! Head for the fireplace!
Our heroes accidentally discover that the fireplace leads to a radio room. Luckily, they are able to trap the Nazis, with the help of a bust, of course. After a bit of a stumble, Indy tries to fool the bad guys with a boat, only to leave in a motorcycle. The resulting chase is very fun, especially the accidental joust. However, Indy and Henry start bickering over the fact that they have to go to Berlin and get the diary back. And what's this? We're actually getting a look at one reason why the Nazis were so evil? Elsa looks like she's about to cry, but it's not like that matters.
Is that what you think of me? I believe in the Grail, not the swastika.
You stood up to be counted with the enemy of everything that the Grail stands for. Who gives a damn what you think?
You do!
This movie may take place before the Nazis committed most of their atrocities, but it's still a compelling point. If she was actually repulsed by them, why would she ever work with them? They part ways and Indy is accidentally shoved into an encounter with one of the worst people ever. Luckily, the tyrant doesn't recognize Indy or the diary, so he just signs the book like a celebrity would. Later on, Indy books tickets on a Zeppelin out of Germany. After a bit of an issue and an explanation of the 3 challenges ahead, Indy figures out that the blimp is turning around. They board the biplane that is on it for some reason and are accosted by 2 fighters. Henry accidentally shoots the tail off and they land at a ranch. The Joneses steal a car and defeat the first plane merely by driving through a tunnel. Unfortunately, the second fighter drops a bomb and forces them to run. Senior has an idea. Awesome, but how can this be made even better?
I suddenly remembered my Charlemagne. Let my armies be the rocks and the trees and the birds in the sky.
That is such a great statement. In Hatay, Donovan meets with an aristocrat who loves his cars. He gets permission to remove the Grail, but Qasim hears it all. That's a nice touch. Indy and Henry make it to Iskendrun. However, they have to deal with a tank and a whole lot more. There's a distraction that doesn't work out all that well. Senior tries to get Marcus out of the tank too. That goes even worse. Then again, it's a great excuse for an action scene. Indy winds up fighting the Nazis on the tank itself. This whole sequence is loaded with thrills, especially when Indy has to whip his dad's leg to keep him from getting crushed. There's a pretty big problem, though. Indy isn't dead, is he? Yeah, it'll take more than that to kill him. Henry does get a moment of kindness, but they have to move on. Wait, something's missing. Ah, there it is. Our heroes make it to the canyon. Donovan and Elsa are one step ahead of them. It's not working out that well. The heroes are captured again, and we learn that Donovan is just using the Nazis to get the Grail itself. That doesn't mean that he has good intentions.
Shooting me won't get you anywhere.
You know something, Dr. Jones? You're absolutely right.
Did you see Elsa's face? She's certainly feeling some regret right about now. What is she going to do about it? Indy has no choice but to get the Grail. The first challenge is the Breath of God, and it involves humility as a medieval knight would see it. That also includes a roll? Huh. The Word of God is about the name of the Judeo-Christian God, which is Jehovah.
But in the Latin alphabet, Jehovah begins with an I.
Oh, nuts. Luckily, Indy is able to figure that out. The path of God seems incomprehensible at first because it involves a giant chasm. However, there is a stone bridge there. It looks almost invisible from a head-on perspective, which is rather odd. No one told anyone about the final challenge. One of the knights associated with the Grail story is still alive, and there are dozens of Grails behind him. Donovan and Elsa enter, but Walter is actually clueless about what the relic would look like. He lets Elsa choose it for him. That wasn't very helpful on her part.
He chose poorly.
Indy knows better. The true Grail wouldn't be some extravagant cup. No, it would be something simple. Also, do you see how the fake Grail is almost hollow on the bottom, while the one that Indy picks still has gold on the inside? Those are some nice little hints in the production design. Nothing immediately happens to Indy. There is a catch, though.
But the Grail cannot pass beyond the Great Seal. That is the boundary and the price of immortality.
In other words, you could live forever, but would you really want to? This finale is a little more subtle than the others, which works in its favor. Well, that's until Elsa ignores the knight's warning anyway. I like that Spielberg has something to say here. Elsa's greed got the better of her and she dies because of it. Indy has problems grappling with that too. However, his dad is able to pull him back in.
Indiana.
Our heroes make it out of the collapsing temple okay, and we get one last lesson.
What did you find, Dad?
Me. Illumination.
I can see why Spielberg initially chose to end this franchise here. The ride off into the sunset is perfectly satisfying. So, that's the Indiana Jones trilogy. These movies have a lot of ups and a few downs, but all three of them have their moments. While they may not be the most realistic movies ever made, they're still worthy of study and appreciation even if you consider all of their flaws. All three of these movies served as blueprints for a ton of adventure stories that followed. We should all be so lucky to have that kind of power. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked that, there's more where that came from, so be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Sharing is caring as well. I can't wait to see the reactions. If you'd like to support the channel and all of our other efforts, be sure to check out the links in the description. Keep your head up, and I'll see you next time.